Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project. Today, I am privileged to be joined by Rabbi Sholem Fishbane, Executive Director of ACO and Kashrus Administrator of the Chicago Rabbinical Council. The reason we're meeting today is a little different than our usual episodes, where we address a wide range of Kashrus topics. Today, we're addressing something more timely, and that is what I'll call the beer tumult. Now, we usually don't respond to tumults, right? That's not our style. But over here, and I say we, Let's Talk Kashrus, the greater Kashrus world, has been inundated with questions about beer specifically after what I would say a number of East Coast hashkachas released a statement regarding beer that seemingly changed the status quo with regard to domestic beer. At least that's the way I understand it. So let's get into it. What exactly was the statement and what surprised people?
These agencies that you mentioned did not release a statement to the public at all. It was an internal document that were sent to their establishments discussing a policy change. You know, like you said, a tumult or a kashrus crisis is when we find there's a major problem, alerts and go out and let the world know, do this. That's not what happened. It was a calculated, and I want to say 3 to 4 year discussion of when should we make a policy change to go from taking beers without hashgacha to only having beers with hashgacha in our establishments or parties that are under our hashgacha. Huge difference. And it was somewhat of a leaked document. It was not supposed to, yes. And I'm quoting those hashgachas.
That makes this much more exciting, by the way.
It was a leaked document. It was not supposed to go to the public. It was supposed to go to their establishments and give them time. And what's the biggest raya? It says there, starting January 1st.
Right.
If it would be a crisis or something terrible, we would be not starting January 1st. And I heard the greatest questions, at the convention, like, so if I buy beer on December 31st and I go over the international date line and I come back, does it hechsher veneer? These are like the great questions. Does everyone have to stock up? Nothing's changing in terms of the mitzvahs. And my son told me in yeshiva they decided the reason. There's a new law passing January 1st that's going to affect all the beers. Also not true. Nothing's changing. It was a policy decision. And it's important for us to understand what's going on. And that is that we've been debating internally, and we at Kashrus Awareness, if you recall, have had 2 episodes on beers. Rabbi Niehaus did a very thorough explaining what beer was. I did an episode that has to do with our establishments and how we're going to be approaching at each establishment. Just as a side note, we have so many, liquor has become a big part of the simchas, as we know. And many times mashgiach, he walks in on a Shabbos and there's a bar there. He doesn't know what to do. He can't look it up online. We actually just created just last week, a CRC kosher liquor guideline.
Oh, wow.
A pocket where the mashgiach can put in there, and it goes through beer and brandy and bourbon and rye and Canadian whiskey, gin. A double side. It tells us bekitzer what the things are, because this is the mitzias today. So what was happening was liquor happens to be pretty much of an established thing. Beer specifically for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, where it was very specific, very pure. You can only use 4 or 5 things, and that is still the case in most of the world besides the United States. Most of the world besides the United States. Okay, in the United States, they started playing around, like we spoke about many times, craft breweries, this brewery, that brewery, and because of that, we in the industry have becoming more and more nervous. Like, how much longer can we still feel that beer being made in the United States is l'chatchila kosher? And even if that beer that you picked up is not flavor or anything like that, but what happened to the kalim and the other stuff that are going on? That's what's going on. And particularly, there's something we've been finding more and more with beer, again in the United States mostly, is that they're able to use, and they use sometimes, lactose. Now, why do they use lactose? It has to do with the way lactose basically gives it a certain sweetness and smoothness that doesn't get lost when they do the brewing, as opposed to some of the other things. So it stays within. It's very good. And here's the key. The key is that because beer is not monitored by the FDA, rather by something called TTB, they don't have to declare like on food. They don't have to say there's no allergens, even though lactose itself might not be an allergen because there's no protein in it. But besides, they don't have to write in ingredients. It's a different type of regulation. And because lactose is becoming common, more common rather. I don't want to make this it's not a crisis. It's becoming more common. And lactose not only is milchig, but could actually be non-kosher because it comes from cheese. Therefore, we're becoming more and more concerned. We in kosher agencies try to give over to the tzibur what's called shaila free. And when a person walks into our place, they're not looking for b'di'evets. Again, this is not to the consumer. So, I want to give an example. I remember when I first got into koshers, we, the agencies, weren't really looking at what's called transportation trucking. Those big trucks on the side of the
Tankers.
road. They're going on down the road and all that. It was too difficult. We were still dealing with making sure the ingredients were kosher. We always had, we knew that even if there was something non-kosher that the truck had previously done, hauled, it was going to be kosher, but you have a dak and a choshes like the shach and all that. But once we got we were very solid with everything else. We went into, okay, now no more of the di'eved, whatever it is, no more shaila free, and now Baruch Hashem, all the transportation in America is l'chatchila mahadr. And if you look through the history of koshers, and I can write a book on this, how as we grow, the Klal Yisrael and our buying power has grow, we're able to do this more and more and more. And that's mamish what's going on with beer. We have had the opportunity now, the Baruch Hashem, to say, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to rely on taking beers that are problematic or at least have a shaila to it. And therefore, are we ready to get to that point? You should use a beer that are under hashgacha. I mean, the party's under hashgacha with hashgacha. Mm-hmm. That was the debate. Let me explain to you the problem. The problem is that if you look at the most popular beers, let's say the top 10 beers in the world, 8 out of 10 of them don't have a hechsher. Mm-hmm. So how can we go ahead and put out a list and insist, right, that you can only have with a hechsher if you can't get anything good? So what happened was that this has been the debate. And on top of that, if let's say we came out and the word got out that you should only get something with a hechsher, the hashgachas say that, and you say, okay, I follow the hashgachas, and then you walk into a Shalom Zacher, your own Rav, and he has Heineken on the table. Heineken doesn't have a hechsher. What are we doing, right? Mm-hmm. You understand from it? There's almost like a big picture chinuch aspect.
Right.
Right. When Chazal said it, they knew that it's a real thing. So this was the debate. I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years. Really geschmack debates in the conscious world, in the ACO executive, what we should and should not do. And what we discovered was that every agency has their kehillah, and they can decide for themselves, and that's what happened. At the last ACO executive meeting, we did what you mentioned, the larger East Coast hashgacha said, you know what, we feel in the East Coast, and based on the clientele that we're servicing, we think it's time to make that turn. And Varaya, we're not doing it. It's not a crisis. Starting whatever it is, we're going to make that turn. We're going to do that corner. And other agencies said, we're with you. Mm-hmm. We're not there yet. Because we cannot give a list. And if you look at the list that was given out originally, even though there were several hundred, but some of the more popular ones, if you read the actual, not the fine print, but it said there are things like only available in UK or Belgium. Shkoyach, but the Shalom Zacher is in Lakewood, right? And what the chiddush is that the agencies felt that they could include some of the top 5 popular beers based on very, very first-hand knowledge.
Included in the kosher list?
Yes.
Even though it doesn't have hashgacha.
So why? So, and I'll tell you what they're: Heineken, Modelo, Budweiser, Stella, Corona. Why? Because it turns out that we have to thank the importers for Israel. There are many these beers that make it to Israel. So those that go to Israel have hashgacha.
Really, they do?
They do have hashgacha. They're special runs. Mm-hmm. So the agencies that are visiting those for the special runs now are in the factories. Mm-hmm. They're saying edus
of what's going
on in those major ones. And therefore, even though it doesn't have a hashgacha on it, there's enough yedias and edus and knowledgeable in the factory to say, we're comfortable adding to the list. That's a major breakthrough. That's a major breakthrough.
And is that a new revelation?
That's a new revelation. And
Interesting.
that's going to be started to be included over there. So therefore,
But I will say also that because of that revelation, it also somewhat weakens the whole project in the sense that, okay, so now there are some beers I could use without hashgacha. Are you not concerned that now people will just kind of say that this whole awareness is kind of lacking?
so I appreciate that's a very
Human mentality
human
is
mentality
that,
is when you have a Torah Shabbat Pes,
there's
all of
a
a sudden a
Torah
Torah Shabbat falls apart.
exactly.
Great point. Great point. So if it would just be Torah Shabbat Peh that I called the company and I spoke to them and everything's okay, put it on the list, you're right. But this is actually much stronger because there's the hashgachas are going into the factories. So therefore, that's why those hashgachas felt. But at the end of the day, it is a valid point, and therefore they're not going to be expanding. They're not looking to start expanding more than this. But they
So it's
felt
just those five.
Those five classics.
And will it be publicized? Because
Yes,
it has not been publicized as of yet, right?
Right.
Just to address, before you go further, the January 1st date also was technically an arbitrary date, right?
Yeah.
Just because the start of the new secular year.
Why
But
not?
it didn't have any scientific or kashrus importance, that particular date, right?
Right. There was nothing like my son's theory in yeshiva.
Right.
No, nothing.
No
There's
new laws.
No new
nothing,
laws.
Nothing's
nothing
changing as of that date.
changing, Nothing.
It's just that you needed a date to choose.
To choose to
at
give
which
them enough time
to give
to
people enough time to
switch
prepare
over.
and so on and so
Right.
forth.
It really is. We'll call it an American problem.
Because you're saying that what? That around the world they haven't been.
Don't play around. The craft breweries are not
Oh.
throwing in oysters. They're not putting bacon in. I think I mentioned last time. One of our fellow colleagues in Boston. So he walked into a craft brewing and they were putting in pepperoni pizza and they put in ham and this. That's like an American craft micro. And the reason why the hashgachas felt that it was time to turn the corner is when you go shopping, it's very hard for you to actually know, is this a craft, a brewery, is one of the big boys? It's hard to know. So it was just too confusing, and therefore, it was time to turn the corner. So I hope I'm giving somewhat of a background
Right.
of what the debate was. And it's very similar. There's so many other examples. I gave the transportation, but there's canned vegetables. You can go through the history of food and in koshers, and as both we've gotten stronger, and together with the industry changing, that the agencies have said it's time for us to become shiloh free on this as well, and that's what's going on over here. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ingredients that we call in the industry Group 1 that we still accept without hashgacha because we know that that's just a pure type of product. Now, the other agencies that aren't there yet are not because in principle they feel they're wrong, but it's because based on, as I said, demographics, other things, they feel that their kahila, in other words, if it would be a real Shiloh, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
We're talking about thinking about the future. When is that time to turn that corner? Shiloh free is always a good way to go.
Right.
There's close to 900 beers that I know about offhand that have a hashgacha.
900 beers?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Have hashgacha?
Have a hashgacha.
Wow.
All the Sam manuals. That's another reason, and maybe I should have said this in the beginning. Another reasons why these hashgachas said let's turn the corner January 1st is because there's an option. Mm-hmm. If we would do that today, let's say on Scotch, there's almost nothing to drink. I mean, there's not enough good Scotch or Irish whiskey that have hashgacha yet
Got it.
to be able to turn the corner. But because beer, there are so many. Maybe it's up to 1,000. Whatever the number.
Now, if someone wanted to explore that list of beer with hashgacha, where could they look? Where could they check?
So the CRC, my day job,
Yeah.
we have a
full list of beer?
But we divide into three.
Okay.
These agencies sent out a spreadsheet to their, and I'm sure it's available somewhere. I don't think they're not releasing that, but I can tell you what we've done. We have a very thorough liquor list. It's probably the largest in the world of researched beer of liquor b'chal, and we divide it into three categories. Certified, approved, which means we did the research, and non-recommended. Mm-hmm. Okay, so someone like yourself, or Yori Shemayim, or I just want certified. Very easy. You can you can choose on our website which ones to give the whole list, just certified list, just the non-approved list, whatever you want. So the options that would be, I'm not just saying because I work for this ERC, it happens to be, kudos to Rabbi Niehaus, who does a tremendous amount of research. And he himself, he stopped researching, every time a new beer comes in, we're not researching the beers that don't have hashgacha. We feel we research the classics, we're good to go, and Klal Yisrael should be has sufficient amount of beer to get us through at least one Shalom Zachar.
Right. Well, we appreciate you shedding light on this. I can't tell you how many questions I got about this in the last few weeks, and people just want to be informed. And I'll end with this. I'm always impressed by the bikush, the desire of people to do the right thing. Time and again, I'm blown away. People come over and they come with questions with tremendous sincerity. And it's not just recommendations for topics that we should speak about here on this program. It's real questions. They want to do the right thing. So many people ask me for your number. They would love to call you day and night with questions.
And they ask me for your number.
That's just because they want to be on the program. But all jokes aside, people do want to do the right thing. They want to reach out, and this program enables them to do that. So, Rabbi Fishbane, thank you again for all that you do for our project, and specifically for coming in today to shed light on this very important topic.